Hello, everybody. Obviously, some pretty shocking, sudden news that came out today. We're going to talk about that. I myself have just kind of been busy today with other stuff. I took Rain to the vet, so she's healthy, and she only weighs like 3.6 pounds, so she's a small kitty. But she's healthy, and then I went to see A Quiet Place 2, which was good, and then I get out, and the world's falling apart. Fire and Brimstone, Mark of the Beast, all kinds of insane stuff. So to try to make sense of this, I have two good friends of mine on, Lord Biscuit and Meme Fryer. Thanks for coming on, guys. I know it was really short notice. Maybe if you just want to introduce yourselves quickly.
Sure. I'm Lord Biscuit. I'm a Catholic in Pennsylvania, and I go to a diocesan Latin Mass, so this decision certainly affects me greatly. Yeah, that's all I gotta say for now.
Nice meme prayer. I go to a Dominican priory, and they have their own old Dominican rite mass. So I checked with them today, a couple of hours ago, and I was told uh, that it doesn't affect them. That the new ruling it doesn't apply to them. So it seems that for now uh, we're gonna have the old rite mass, no, the Dominican rite mass, as the case may be. So yeah,
Okay, well that's good. Um, so if one of you could maybe just, for the people who aren't
months
really
ago,
aware of
and I
what's
was told
going on, give us a bit of a summary of what even happened.
So it's come out today that Pope Francis has released a new motu proprio, a papal executive order, essentially, that rolls back everything that Benedict XVI did with Summorum Pontificum and actively encourages bishops to prevent the raising of new Latin masses and ask uh, ask them if they agree with Vatican II, and it's very much a clamping down on both existing Latin masses throughout the world and also on future ones. Um, this has been in the pipeline for quite a while, actually. It's not a surprise. It's something that's been talked about for months at least, if not like the whole of last year. I've been seeing more and more trickle out about this, but it's definitely like the abruptness of it coming now is definitely shocking, I would say.
Well, I mean, did as with anything Francis related, we'll just take a step back in a second, but he announces or says he's going to announce things and then doesn't or announces them, then there's no teeth to them just so often. It's really hard to know what is actually happening at any particular time. Like, to me, the ultimate example of that was the Amazon Synod, where they declared that they were going to do like 20 million crazy things. And then uh, didn't deliver on any of them.
Yeah, definitely. Like he has a Pope Francis has a reputation of um saying a lot more than he does, and also when he does do things, they're not as severe as the language makes them sound. But this very much is, at least according to my reading, something that will greatly affect uh, like the traditionalist movement.
Okay, so if let me just take a
yeah,
step back. So the Tridentine Rite was the norm everywhere in the Latin Church prior to Vatican II, right?
uh-huh.
And
Essentially, yeah.
and then when Vatican II happened, they introduced an alternative version of it that was what we call Novus Ordo, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So was it Paul the Sixth who issued? So was the so sorry. So what was the thing that made Novus Ordo the default?
Paul the Sixth in Missale Romanum, which was in 1969, he officially promulgated, which is to, say that this missile can be used and actively encouraged it to become the normative form of the liturgy in the Western Church. So that it begins in 1969, but importantly in that document and in no document uh, was the 1962 missal or any form of the Tridentine Mass officially abrogated.
I mean, in paper, it was not abrogated, but in practice, it um, it so happened that
I mean, you could say it was
yeah.
suppressed.
Okay, sorry. Let's
You
just take
could
a
say it
step
was
back.
suppressed.
Sorry, I'm just trying to keep this for people who aren't that uh, knowledgeable. Okay, so they introduced Novus Ordo. Paul VI issues a what's it called again?
It was an apostolic
Okay,
constitution.
an apostolic constitution that says um, the the preferred form of the mass is now Novus Ordo, with the intention being that eventually everything's going to switch over to Novus Ordo. Is
Mm-hmm.
that a kind of a correct interpretation of what he was going for?
Yeah. In
There is
Missale Romanum, it states that at the end of that year in which it was promulgated, that it would, like by Advent, I think it was, that all churches would begin to use the new missal.
Right, and in
yeah.
practice, how it was interpreted was that it banned the Latin Mass, if I understand properly, is how it was interpreted by a lot of people.
Meme Friar, you got something to say about that?
I'm saying in effect that is what happened,
I'm not
and
saying like it doesn't matter what the actual thing said. I'm just saying that's how I think it was interpreted by a lot of people.
yeah. So
Yeah,
what I'm saying is, in effect, that is what happened.
it was a suppression. It was,
Yes.
it was. This is the new mass. This is the one that everybody should use, and it doesn't even talk about exceptions.
And did John Paul II just not do anything during his time in office, or
John Paul II allowed for. I think he issued a motu proprio. Meme Fry, you know more about that?
Um, I don't think that that liturgy was John Paul II's primary concern, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, because he was the last um, politician pope that we have had for
so?
Um,
yeah.
So, like in his
John Paul
case,
II,
he didn't do anything for or against it.
he did do something for it, which was, I cannot recall the exact document, but it was this so-called indult mass. I don't
Mm.
know what document it is in which that became like an official thing that the church could do, but I actually I just found it. It's Quatuor Abhing Annos in 1984, which allowed for which allowed for, under very specific circumstances, bishops could authorize the celebration of the mass. Now, this is not something that was done a lot, but it was something he did.
Okay, so he instituted very limited exceptions. Now, if I recall correctly, when Benedict became pope, he said the Latin Mass was never actually suppressed. That was just basically, sorry to use the, but that was just kind of a meme that people came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's said that Novus Ordo is now the norm, the Pope has no power to ban the Latin Mass or suppress it. It never was. If people said that the document or whatever, that was the purpose of it, they misinterpreted it either deliberately or
Mm-hmm.
accidentally or outright lying. And anybody who wants to do the Latin Mass can do it without.
Yeah,
I don't think they
without
even need the
ecclesiastical
bishops.
permission.
Yeah, it's just it's there. It's equally valid to the
Mm-hmm.
Novus Ordo. And so, from my understanding, the status quo prior to like today was priests can just do whatever they want. Um,
And what's important to mention, though, is
That was sealed by the Summorum Pontificum
Yeah,
by Benedict the 16th, but it
no,
came out in what, like 2006, I think.
2007.
2007, right? Well, there we go. Yeah.
But what's important to remember about Summorum Pontificum is that, I mean, bishops in their discretionary power as bishops could still do things to thwart the Latin Mass, despite Summorum Pontificum. Like they could move priests from the parishes, or like, and that did happen a lot, and it continues to happen, and you can expect it to happen a lot more. Um, so it although Summorum said priests can do it, bishops still did things to try and limit it in cases where they didn't
I
agree with it.
think that happened somewhere near where I live, where there was a church that had a Latin mass, and then they switched the priests around to have like a liberal priest who got rid
Mm-hmm.
of it. Um,
Yeah.
so there was that aspect to it, and so I guess just maybe for those of you who aren't like either non-Catholic or don't know that much about it, is I'd say this is kind of one of the fissure issues in the church where it's kind of the hill that I think a lot of traditionalists have said they're going to die on is um, either we insist on attending the Latin Mass or at least just ensuring that it's still licit and allowed and people have access to it. And this is just kind of be where we're not going to retreat
Mm-hmm.
from. Would that be fair to
Mm.
say?
Yes, and I think that, obviously non-Catholics, and I expect even some Catholics wouldn't necessarily know, but that's what, the phrase lex orandi, lex credendi, lex vivendi. What is prayed is what is believed is what is lived. Um,
Yes.
so um, the the reason why like it can seem like a silly thing to die for, like the Latin Mass, like, and then that can seem like a pretty, petty or aesthetical sort of position to take, where this is, all this other stuff like doesn't matter, but if you try to go for this is the big deal. And I think the reason why trads do that, at least the good-hearted ones, um, is because what is, the faith is taught through the sacraments. That's the normative expression of faith, is the sacraments, and especially the Eucharist. So Holy Mass is the highest form of prayer, and so to alter
And
that is to alter the whole faith.
and in and in more practical terms, right? In more practical terms, the um the liturgy is a recounting of the doctrines and dogmas of the
Hmm.
and uh, regardless of however um profoundly respectfully you celebrate the Novus Ordo, right? Regardless of how reverently you do it, it's compared to let's say the Dominican Rite Mass or the Tridentine Mass. It will appear invariably. It will appear to be impoverished. So, um, I mean, I don't I don't know
Right.
what Francis is. Yeah,
And just if I could, so also the thing is, I mean, so there is the liturgical aspect, and that's certainly important, but it's kind of a bellwether for a lot of other things. So, like, if a parish has a Latin mass, you're probably not going to have to deal with priests telling you how we have to love trannies and we need more Syrian refugees or
yeah.
um, Joe Biden
Hmm.
is a
We don't
Catholic
have
in
to.
good
Like in the,
standing.
We
I,
don't have to um ex- we don't have to deal with people like what's that priest's name, Matthew Schneider, I think, who is a Legionnaire of Christ priest. He said, he tweeted a few hours ago that um that oh, the Novus Ordo is exactly the same as the TLM because Jesus is the same there. And my point is, yeah, because Jesus is the same there, that's why we choose the traditional Latin Mass.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I
Right.
just,
I'm just
What I
saying,
was
like,
going to
oh, sorry, go on.
sorry about that. But what I was going to say in relation to the prior point about um, you know, why is the Latin Mass important to protect? In the same way, I would make an analogy that in the same way that, respecting the the history of a nation and like the civic culture of a nation, like the health of a society is downstream from that. And in
right,
the
yeah,
same way, the health of the church is downstream from the respect for the practices of the church and the
yes.
respect for the traditions of the church. So it's very much analogous to sort of the culture war. And,
I was gonna
you
say
know,
it's like smashing the statues. Kind of
hmm
the equivalent of that.
exactly. Yep.
France is trying to take this down, but I was just saying, like in a broader sense, because you have people like me who, when I converted, I went to a Novus Ordo parish, and I tend to uh, personally just prefer conservative Novus Ordo, but I rather go to probably people like me will probably just eventually wind up going to Latin masses if they're still around, because I just can't take like being lectured at about how like the Catholic Church is evil, abortion's great, trannies are like an integral part of the community, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
If only because I don't want to have to deal with that.
hmm
And I just feel that's kind of a cleavage. There's also some other aspects to it, like traditionalist parishes have a lot of vocations, whereas
Oh, yeah.
parishes don't have
Yeah,
any.
Uh,
yeah. Um,
Demographically, I mean, were you going to make that point, Meme Fryer?
I was, I was gonna say is that, both economically and demographically, right? So in the Dominican priory that I go to, the 9:15 a.m. mass on Sundays. That's the old Dominican rite mass, right? And it has on an average 60 to 120, attendees, right?
Mhm.
And then you have the 11 a.m. mass, which is the English Novus Ordo, and uh, the number of um, the numbers of the attendees do not usually exceed more than 45, 50, maybe.
Right.
Now what that often translates to is that the 9:15 collection is much larger than the 11 a.m. collection, right? And demographically, the average age of the person who comes to the 9:15 is mid 20s, early 30s, whereas nearly every other person at the 11 a.m. is is a pensioner, right?
Now,
So,
if I just can ask, now, because I know that was true when I was going to a traditionalist church, but they had like three English Novus Ordo masses and then one Latin mass.
mhm,
So do they have like a bunch of English Novus Ordos?
there's one, and then there's one in the evening, but that's usually for those who are like super sick or
Okay.
cannot make it. Yeah, yeah.
And
And
then there's normally
what I
the
will.
Saturday evening one as well, which I would imagine is probably
Mhm.
English Novus Ordo. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, to be slightly fair, partially why the Latin Mass is probably bigger in some cases is because they only have one of it, whereas they have like three or four Novus Ordos on a weekend. Sorry, go ahead,
Mhm.
Lord Biscuit.
What I will say is that as a sort of counter to the skepticism, not to say that you're being overly skeptical, but just to, buffer the point of Meme Fryer. The I live in an area that's pretty spoiled for choice when it comes to Latin masses. And there's a couple of parishes that are exclusively Latin mass. One of them is diocesan, one of them is FSSP, and I've been to all of the options in my diocese. And
Mhm.
in every single case, the average age of the people is much lower than any Novus Ordo I've been to, even Reverend Novus Orders that I've been to.
Yeah.
The average age is much lower. The population, the attendance is greater, and you see young couples with children, which is like if I went to the Novus Ordo parish that's down the street from me, that is something you just don't see. Not at any of the masses. You'll maybe see at their best attended mass you'd maybe see 3 or 4 children.
Yeah.
Right. No, I wasn't disagreeing. I was just saying my
Oh, yeah.
experience. Um, so sorry.
So
Okay. So, uh,
just to finish that off, so
okay,
I
go ahead.
think that there's a sort of, and surveys show this too, that there's a sort of demographic inevitability of the traditional mass. And as a
Yes.
final sort of statistic to drop, in France, I think it was in 2016, in France, all of the priests ordained in the country that year, of all of them, I think it was right around a quarter of them were all like exclusively Latin mass priests.
Hmm.
Okay, so sorry. So just getting back, I just wanted to take. I know that was a bit of sorry if people are watching this, a bit of a side thing, but just for those of you who aren't um, like that familiar with it, I just kind of want to give a bit of context to why this is important. So, from my understanding, what actually happened, if we can get into that, is Pope Francis basically just said, "Look, the Latin Mass can only continue in a. You cannot do new ones, and the current ones can only continue with express permission from the local bishop." Is that correct?
Yes.
So even if the
Can I
bishop gives,
can I say something to that?
sure, go ahead.
Um, I was going over the text with a couple of people earlier today,
Hmm.
and it appeared to me to be the case that the wording was not as clear as it was perhaps originally intended to be.
That's a
So,
surprise.
yeah, it's yeah. So, I mean, I just maybe I'm coping. I don't know, but I think that on the ground things are not going to be as clear cut as one would have expected.
Well, I mean, I think that's
Hello?
kind of. Oh, hey, sir. I
What are
just want.
you guys talking about?
I just kind of want to finish the point, and then I'll let you. Okay, so we're just talking about specifically what Pope Francis did. So, for my
Is
understanding,
the document published in English?
Yes.
Okay, so is it is there a um shit, I don't remember the technical term.
so
Are you thinking of like some sort of formula in it that says
sorry,
something?
No,
just
I'm
be
thinking of what
uh,
it was. I'm trying to remember the rules of the Latin Mass from 82
okay.
because
Just
the Latin Mass was banned from 1976 till 82
okay. Just
explicitly.
before we get to that, I just kind of wanted to finish off just for the people watching. Okay, so the Pope can so they cannot start new Latin masses even
Is
with
an
the bishop's
indult
approval.
allowed anymore? Indult is the legal word.
The
So
indult
what
is
you're
indeed
saying,
allowed.
there's no indult.
No, there is an indult now.
Okay, if there is an indult, then the bishop should be able to allow anybody that they allow to have a Latin mass.
Yeah,
So
that is
yeah,
that.
okay,
Yeah.
Argent. So there's been different eras after Vatican II. Some from after. So the new mass was forcefully promulgated in 1969. It could exist in a very relinquished minor indult form. So an indult is something that's a legal form, or that's a legal term for something that the bishops allow that's out of the ordinary. So with the Latin Mass, Latin Masses were done as an indult until 2007. So again, to go back to the eras, from 69 to 76, there was a small indult. It was explicitly banned from 76 to 82. The Vatican denied that under Benedict XVI. Then until 82, there was a small indult allowed again. I think during this era, there was one indult in the world from 76, and that was the Latin Mass Society in the United Kingdom. Then from 82, under John Paul II, trying to amend the SSPX situation, he allowed an indult after the consecration of the bishops in 88. The indult was expanded. John Paul II asked bishops explicitly to expand the indult, and that was the indult that existed from 1988 until 2007. And then in 2007, there was Summarum Pontificum, which allowed any priest to do the Latin Mass in a private way, allowed it so that priests could serve the Latin Mass without the express permission of bishops, because under an indult, you need the express permission of bishops. Under Summorum Pontificum from 2007 until it looks like today, any priest, if there were bishops would ask the priests to do it. But under Summorum Pontificum, what ended up happening is a lot of young priests learned the Latin Mass, and then they were allowed to serve the Latin Mass on, say, like off days. It's very rare for it to replace, say, the Sunday Mass or even a Saturday night Mass. So what ended up happening is that most of the new generation of priests are learning both the Novus Ordo and the New Rite, and many of the new generation, at least in the United States or rural United States where I live, most of the younger generation probably, if you got them behind a closed door, are going to say they like the older Mass more. And now he's revoked Summorum Pontificum, but has he revoked the rights of the indult?
No, he has not, to the best of my knowledge.
He hasn't, but what's very interesting is in Article 3, it does state that the bishops still have the authority and the discretion to determine if they're going to allow this, if they're going to allow the Latin Mass. But also in Article 3, it also states that in parochial churches, this is a big deal. That I think that wording's a big deal. That in parochial churches, they're like those can't be
Okay.
A location where there's Latin Mass.
Sorry, guys, could we just take a step back because they're kind of getting off into like the technicalities? I was just trying to.
You mean parochial, as in like Catholic schools?
No, parishes.
No,
what is parochial? What does that mean? And does he mean old?
Regular? No, it means
So what he's trying to do is he's trying to lead to a segregation of the rights.
Okay, just finish, and then I kind of want to.
So what you're saying is that he doesn't want young priests to do a Wednesday or a Tuesday daily Mass, Latin Mass. That's what it sounds like. He only wants there to be like a fraternity of St. Peter or something. He wants them to be kind of pushed off again. It seems like it's pushing back towards, like, it doesn't seem that bad. It seems like they're pushing back towards the indult of 1988.
Yes,
Maybe
that
it's
is
all the way
that is,
to
I think,
82, though.
That is, I think, what is happening. Again, this is, yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm just gonna have to bring this back because we're going off on kind of a tangent. Okay, so Francis basically stated, just in basic terms for people who are not aware, that priests no longer have the independent authority to decide whether or not they're going to have a Latin Mass. They need to have express permission from the bishop in order to do it. Now, the thing I was trying to clarify was, um, can if a priest gets permission, can he start a Latin mass, or can he only continue it with a bishop's permission?
From what I can read, he could start a Latin Mass, but it could not be at a parish church. I don't know what
However,
that
however,
leaves.
however, it doesn't say. Um, Again, as I said, this leaves a lot to be like. This leaves a lot
Okay, we'll get into that in a
unsaid
second.
and confused. Can I
Sure.
finish the? It
Mhm.
doesn't. It doesn't. Like, does he mean within the parish church building, or does he specify like the main
I
church
think they mean a
altar and not?
designated indult church. But of course, it's very poorly written given the pontificate in question.
Okay.
Exactly, yeah, that was
So, okay, so I'm just saying, so as best as we can determine without getting into any of the specifics, it does see, and once again, it doesn't actually even really matter what it says, it's how it's going to be generally interpreted. Because we got into that whole situation where they didn't actually ban the Latin Mass, but everyone said they banned it, so it was de facto as if they banned it. Um,
yeah.
so there's that issue. But basically, what he's trying to do is he's trying to make it so the Latin Mass will gradually die out. So the existing ones will need frequent, basically, renewal, I guess you could say. And you can't add any more, at least not in any kind of convenient way that people could normally access. So my understanding is the idea is this is a way to quickly phase it out over the next decade or two. Is that
Well,
a
it's
go on?
so you have to understand is that this is a return to the prior state of an indult. It doesn't seem like it's an extension. Um, yeah, I would say so in a sense, but it's kind of like a warning shot more than a
Than an
it's like
actual
trying
attack,
to,
yeah.
yeah, it's not like an annihilation, it's more like a warning shot to spread fear.
Okay, so because I've seen people who are kind of coping saying this doesn't actually change anything. This is just a I just some confusing thing. Um, I don't know. It's just to me as from how things Francis do normally, Matt like is interpreted. He's basically just saying no more Latin mass, and I think
He's
that's
not saying that.
no.
He's
But I'm
trying to
saying
scare people.
no. I think he's dog whistling that. Um, I also think he's empowering bishops to crack down.
Well, an important point
Yes.
that I've heard is that he's essentially preying on the scrupulosity of trads and
Yeah,
trad's like tendency to want to be as obedient as they need to be, like
yeah,
morally,
yeah,
while also being faithful to tradition. And he's preying on that because it leaves trads in a state of additional confusion as to what is the obedient thing to do in this situation.
yeah.
And whereas like a Novus Ordo Catholic, or who doesn't give much regard for obedience,
I
or
mean, I mean, I mean, your average Novus Ordo Catholic is gonna say, "Oh, I mean, I've been seeing these comments on Facebook already. There are people who said the the crypto sedes have been dealt a death blow by His Holiness Pope Francis, and now they can return to the woodwork out of which they emerged, and so on and so forth. Like absolute idiotic evil shit like that, right? And then they're gonna return to to contracepting and celebrating. Oh, I don't know. Saint Floyd, or Saint Bruce Jenner, or whatever. Um,
And
So it doesn't even matter to them. Like,
what's been
mhm,
said
go
and
on.
what's interesting is that in the like in as is typical with Pope Francis, this document does not like contain any warnings of penalties if bishops don't comply or anything, like, or if bishops or priests don't comply with it. Like he doesn't ever threaten um penalties. And so this is a guy who thinks that people who are objectively outside the church, are perfectly fine, like they're going to heaven, it's fine. So
Right.
if this is a guy who thinks all of that, like who basically doesn't believe in like the church's understanding of hell and who goes there, like why should, like, I don't think traditionalists should really fear his pen, because he doesn't ever threaten.
He doesn't ever threaten. He doesn't. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, has he ever really cracked down on anyone?
Other than
The
the
Knights of
Franciscan
Malta,
Friars of the Immaculate.
the Knights of Malta, Franciscan Friars of the Immaculate. I all see this as the same trajectory.
Okay,
He's not going to do any of this in like one swipe. He's a very he like he takes a blow and then he like waits and he takes another blow. He seems to dislike, he doesn't want to completely destroy or something, but he just does like,
He just wants to confuse and weaken.
no,
yeah,
okay.
because it was first he salted the earth for the Immaculate Friars, then he salted the earth for the Knights of Malta, and now he's revoked some more pontificum.
Okay, so I think
Well, it seems like so what it sounds to me is that they're revoking, they're pushing it back, and I said the wrong year. So it's Kotar, um, Abheric Annos. See, so the four papal documents in question addressing the traditionalist movement are that one in 84, which allows the original indult, Ecclesia Dei, which was a response to the consecration of the bishops, and it said that all bishops should try to open an indult to prevent schism. It widens the indult, and it partly established the Fraternity of St. Peter, and then some more in Pontificum, which basically allowed almost all normal priests to do some sort of indult. And now he's revoked it to where normal priests aren't supposed to do the indult anymore.
okay, but
So it's going to result in a bunch of like, unless if he's going to crack down on the Fraternity of St. Peter, for the time being, there shouldn't be. There's a lot of established stuff outside of the direct indult of
Exactly.
diocesan
Yeah. Yeah.
priests.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
So I don't. It seems rather symbolic to me, actually.
okay,
It
so
seems like symbolic, and it's used to terrify people.
I don't think it actually any of this really matters what the actual legal background is. Basically, how Francis does things is it's a really, I can't say that word, J slur thing, way of doing things, where he announces something in a context that appears authoritative to anyone who doesn't know like the real nitty gritty of authority and all this kind of stuff. He basically goes, "Look, I'm the Pope. I'm going to use my authority to declare this. I'm technically not using this specific legal procedure, so I'm not accountable for it, but I'm going to declare it." And to basically
Yeah.
everybody else outside of like this Discord server, that seems to be the case. Like he did that with divorced and remarried Catholics. He did that with, I think, objectively with gay marriage. He said he supported civil unions, but he didn't formally do it. At the Synod, they declared all kinds of crazy shit, like we're going to bring in married priests. We're going to do like the who am I to judge thing, all that kind of nonsense. And he'll do it in a way that looks authoritative and that like he's using his power as Pope, but he's maintaining this weird, implausible deniability
Uh
to the
huh.
whole thing. And so I think this is
Uh huh.
another example of that. It's irrelevant what the actual text is. Basically, he's saying, I'm the Pope, I'm the absolute monarch, you're getting rid of the Latin Mass.
And he doesn't really care if his if his if his instructions are carried out. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm saying I think he knows how to get people to do stuff in a way that he has implausible deniability. So he can be like, "Oh, well, I wasn't using my specific papal power. That was just a private opinion that I gave at a press conference where I gave the impression that." Or he'll get like his surrogates to come out and say it on his behalf or something. Like he didn't use any particular legal procedure for this, did he?
No.
Like, isn't there
I
some?
mean, in terms of this kind of stuff, though, it's just administrative, and what he says he can say. I mean, I don't think he has the authority to suppress the Latin Mass, but in
No.
terms of this, like,
Yeah, but it's
In
irrelevant.
terms of this is so the way I so like a, a very productive way of looking at it, productive because instead of freaking out, it gives us a way forward. Okay, so the nature of this declaration is that it's a declaration and he hasn't laid out any specific legal guidelines for either its enforcement or um, nor has he listed any penalties that the people who break this declaration um, will have to undergo, right? That's
I mean, in the document, he does entrust the exercise of these provisions
No,
to
but like that's kind of
yeah.
the exact point is that because he does it in a vague way without any specifics, he has implausible deniability where if someone calls him on it or someone seeks to clarify, he's just like, oh, it says what it says. It's kind of like, ironically enough, the whole who will rid me of that troublesome priest type situation where he's extremely strongly implying something but not explicitly asking for it. And I think that's kind of the hallmark of his papacy is to try to get because like as I said, I don't think like the specific legislative process or whatever matters to anyone outside of like some people on the internet who are really in on it. I think if the average Catholic, even the average like conservative person reads this or hears about it through however the media filter it, they're going to say, "Oh, the Pope says Latin Mass is bad. The Pope says Latin Mass has led to schism and led to the destruction of the Church." I think, and he knows that that's the way it's going to get out. Because I think he knows very well how the media interprets things and how they're going to spread it. So I'm just saying, I think that whatever the side effects of this are, is very deliberate. I mean, Pope Francis is very. I don't think he's stupid, at least not stupid in the way that is sometimes attributed to him.
right. Um, but as I was saying, there are loopholes, right? But in order to first think about loopholes, we have to understand that this is basically just enabling bureaucratic harassment. Um,
Yeah. One loophole I can see in this is that, I mean, for example, Archbishop Cordileone of San Francisco already said, like, yeah, I'm not going to change anything. Like, this, like, he already put out a statement that's like, yeah, everything's just going to stay the same. So, I mean, bishops in their authority as ordinaries of a diocese, they can just do that. They can just say, even ones who are against the Latin Mass, they might think it too big of a headache to
yeah,
do
because
something about it.
that's kind of important to realize because a lot of these people they're um, minimalists when it comes to administration because one of the like who the hell wants to micromanage something as big as this, right? And most of the boomers who would be expected to enforce this sort of thing, they're pretty old. And like, I don't know if there's if it's even commercially or financially plausible at this time to make the kind of move that it appears to be implied by this. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Um,
Because the financial condition of the churches is just absolute shit right now. I mean, especially after Cockpit.
Can I like put a narrative here?
Sure.
Okay.
Um, Francis might be dying.
yeah, that's
He just
possible.
had
He
a
did
colon
just come out of the
surgery.
hospital.
Like, this is his first action after having a major surgery. So, I mean, this might be like something he's trying to do right before he dies.
Yeah. This is like as if he's almost trying to steal his place in hell. Or did he, I don't know, God forbid that this is what happened, but did he, whilst he was in the hospital, sign some sort of agreement with Satan that he would do this in return for, I don't know, 5 or 6 more years of life or something?
Um,
I mean, he- I don't want to make imputations like this, but yeah,
I think, and I tend to just prefer the simplest explanation. I think, as a friend of ours said, Pope Francis's goal is okay. So I just for those of you who haven't heard this, so for those of you who live in a Western country, I'm not sure if they do this in Europe, but at school they give you these UNICEF boxes to take around with you at Halloween, and people will put like a penny or a nickel or a dime or something in it, and that money goes to help pay buy food for starving children. It's feel good. Everybody loves it. And Pope Francis's like goal in life is to have his face on one of the UNICEF boxes as this like bland, boring symbol of unity and generic neoliberal good things. And
yeah,
this might literally just be this might just literally be him going, "Oh, well, division's bad. Saying that I'm against division makes me look good. Um, the people who are most triggering to the mainstream are trads. So I'm just going to hit down on them. People are going to see me as the man of peace here, the man who heals divisions, and I'll get all this kind of credit in the international media." I mean, that would kind of be the simplest one. I don't know if that's oversimplification, but I think that's definitely possible.
yeah,
Um,
One important thing to note, and I know this is going back too much, maybe to the legal the eccentricities of the document itself, but I can see like just I guess this does sort of tie in though to Pope Francis's general attitude, his very blasé like I just want to be a generic good guy to the liberal world.
yeah,
He overlooks things a lot. And I know it's not necessarily. I know it's him, not him, who drafts the documents, but you know the people around him, I would assume, have a similar sort of framework mentally to him.
right.
Um, and one thing I can see that they perhaps overlooked is that in this motu proprio in this document today, um, I can see it doesn't ever say that it's replacing Summorum Pontificum. It mentions Summorum Pontificum, and the reason why I say this is because in Summorum Pontificum, Benedict said that the conditions laid down by Quatuor, Advenganos, and Ecclesia Dei are replaced, and in this one he doesn't say that Summorum's replaced.
I just think that he has no idea how to legislate.
Well, I don't know if he has no idea. I think he just doesn't really care. Like,
I mean, column A and column B.
um, so I was trying to figure this out. So he's not referencing anything previous, right? Like because there is like because people said, oh, the mass was like banned by Paul VI, and then Benedict said, no, it never was. That was just a meme. And he's not even referencing either of those, right? He's not taking a position on whether it was banned or not.
Well, he
I
does
think.
reference some more.
Okay.
Can I say something? I think
Sure.
it might actually be more instructive to read the letter that accompanies um, uh, the uh, the document.
Right.
Was it released with an attached
Yes,
letter?
like an attachment. Yeah.
I know that it
You
was
guys.
published in L'Osservatore Romano. But like there's a separate letter that's different from the motu proprio.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
What? No.
correct.
So what does he say about it in the separate letter?
He says that he wants to end the division, that the abuse, that the misuse of Summorum Pontificum has caused. That he does say that. He wants to be so basically he wants to be remembered as the herald of peace
Sorry. So
or
Yeah,
something.
he's probably dying.
sorry. So let me just repeat what I said previously. So is he claiming that the Latin Mass was banned or was not banned, or is he just
No, no,
ignoring
no, no,
that
no.
whole thing?
He's
He doesn't
saying
make
that
a judgment.
No,
he's saying
he's
that
not
it's like
addressing
gotten out
that.
of hand and it's like causing division in the church.
Yeah, yeah.
So that okay. So that it wasn't banned, but it's bad, so we have to ban it now.
Well, not ban it, but just crack down on it.
Right, but okay, so he's saying, okay, so Paul VI didn't actually ban it. Benedict's right, but it's irrelevant because it's bad, so we need to crack down on it.
He doesn't say anything directly about it, but I would assume that he's operating at least on like I would assume he didn't think about it at all, that question, but it's operating under the same presumptions as Summorum, I would think.
Okay, so so doesn't it literally amount to like, oh, the people who go to the Latin Mass are big meanies, so if we
Yeah.
get rid of it, they'll stop being mean?
Yeah.
Something like that. Um,
Well, it's this typical mealy-mouthed, vague language that's like, there's a lot of division these days in the church.
That is so
And
characteristic of him.
yeah, there's just lots of
sorry,
division.
crackpot theory. Do you think this is at all related to the church like actually trying to do something about anti-president Biden? Like as a distraction from that? Because weren't they talking about denying him communion or something?
Yeah, they were talking about denying him communion, but it like I don't think that question in and of itself became big enough
Okay.
to like cause something like this to happen. I mean, plus I think that since this has been floated around, this idea like this is coming has been known for a while, and we didn't know the extent, but we knew that he was going to try to do something to crack down on the Latin Mass, and I think that there's a lot of credence to the theory that he's dying, and so he was like, just put it out, like draft him, put it out because I'm like
This is his
just got out of the
legacy.
hospital. Yeah, I guess.
This is my legacy to basically just like his last act is to just toss a hand grenade.
Trads are mean.
He's just gonna throw a hand grenade into like a crowded pit, like church.
His legacy is trads are mean.
Can I quote what Francis said in the accompanying letter.
Sure.
Um, for 4 centuries, this Missale Romanum, promulgated by Saint Pius V, was thus the principal expression of the lex orandi of the Roman Rite, and functioned to maintain the unity of the Church. Without denying the dignity and grandeur of this rite, the bishops gathered in a ecumenical council asked that it be reformed. Their intention was that the faithful would not assist as strangers and silent spectators in the mystery of faith, but with a full understanding of the rites and prayers would participate in the sacred action consciously, piously, and actively. Taking a lot of assumptions here, buddy. And Saint Paul VI, recalling that the work of adaptation of the Roman Missal had already been initiated by Pius XII, declared that the revision of the Roman Missal, carried out in the light of ancient liturgical sources, had the goal of permitting the Church to raise up, in a variety of languages, a single and identical prayer that expressed her unity. This unity I intend to re-establish throughout the Church of the Roman Rite. Okay, this is um
The smoking gun.
yeah.
So does that mean anything for the ordinariate, the
No,
Anglican one? Okay.
no, no, no.
Even though their rite is basically the same as the Tridentine, except in English.
Well, it's
Yeah,
because they're an independent. They're effectively an independent society.
I
Right.
mean they're not within the Roman Rite, so it doesn't affect them.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm pretty sure they are. Um, they are within the Roman Rite. It's just a use.
Yeah, but do they have some sort of canonical irregularity or something? I mean, I don't know. I'm just
No,
I'm
they're
just
like
being
their own diocese, basically.
yeah. Okay,
They
yeah,
function almost like the Eastern churches.
So,
yeah.
do you think this is going to result in like a bunch of people either becoming sedes or going into schism, or is it just going to be like everything Francis does, where he announces something, nothing really comes of it, and people just kind of go back like battered wives?
A bit of column A, a bit of column B.
Right.
I think that I've already seen a lot of people who are like, they're like trads are very battered by like and beaten down by just all of the crap that he said,
Yeah.
and like the trads have had to try and defend him in a lot of cases, and I think that people are just most of the people I know, most of the people I've seen are just straight up done trying to defend him at all.
Well, there
Like,
was only
Yes.
like because I remember for the first like 3 to 4 years, people were like, "Oh, it's just the media. It's just like," and then people just gave up at some
like
point.
that cope act is something that people aren't really interested in doing, and I don't know if
Yeah.
it'll create a huge spike in SETIs. What I
Um,
do know is it'll create a spike in the SSPX.
and if so, I was talking about this with some friends earlier in the day today, and my question is: so is one of Francis's long-term plans to drive us into the arms of the SSPX so that he can suppress the SSPX later? Like, is that
I mean, he doesn't have the power to
What does
suppress
this
the
mean for the
SSPX.
FSSP? Are they? Is he gonna like try to shut them down at some point?
There's an article in this motu proprio that says that any like societies and institutes that were created by Ecclesia Dei are fine and like basically outside of the authority of this.
I mean, for now, I could still see him at
I
some.
think
I
he
could
should
see
just
him.
say for now.
I can see him changing that later on, but for now,
I
yeah.
mean, I kind of feel if we're gonna go with this. Okay, so if we're gonna take seriously when he says the Latin Mass is divisive and bad, then societies that are based around the Latin Mass are like the sowers of discord. So I kind of do feel he might come after
sellers of discord?
the FSSP at some point, or whatever
Um,
other um, institutions are like that.
One theory that I've seen about what like is the like long-term game plan here by him is that he wants to, and this ties back into him preying on Trad's innate sense of wanting to be obedient while also preserving, our ways.
Yeah.
He could be like what Meme Fire said just a few minutes ago, um, trying to drive Trads into the arms of the SSPX.
Hmm.
And I think that what you said, Argent, with like suppressing the FSSP and other institutes like that, that could be the next step to drive as many trads as he can to the SSPX so that he can drop like a big bomb, like mass excommunication on everybody in the SSPX, everybody involved with the SSPX. And that would be like, that would be sinking, like, that would be him trying to totally sink the ship of
So you're
traditionalism
saying
because,
he's building a second Death Star to get all the rebels to attack the second
yeah,
Death Star, and then it's
yes,
gonna be
yes,
a fully operational battle station?
yes.
Can
But
I
just
can I
so that scrupulous
can I say
trads who are,
something?
yeah,
Like every time we have a conversation like this about the long-term strategic plans of Francis, I wonder, are we not giving him too much credit? Like that.
I believe we're giving him too much credit.
Yeah, yeah. That's what. Yeah,
I'm
that's what.
sorry, I continue to believe that he's incompetent.
No, I okay. So what I mean is, I don't know if he has a master. I don't think he has a master plan. But I'm just saying, if this is the tact he's gonna try to take going forward, that he's gonna be the unifier and that's gonna be his legacy. The next natural step, even if it's not part of a plan, would be to take down the FSSP or something else like that. Even
um,
if it's just like him saying, "Oh, they're this divisive problem part of the church." Like he might not actually do anything specific, but he might just issue some like statement like that. I don't know.
I what I was going to say to that is it doesn't necessarily just have to be Francis. Like with the election of popes, you get different factions of the church that come into power, that come into influence, that have the ear of the pope.
Yeah,
And
that's true. Yeah.
like there could be a collective idea of this like more liberalizing faction of wanting to do something long term about the Latin Mass. It doesn't necessarily have to be just this masterminded plot by Pope Francis. It's obvious that there's a faction in the church that would love to see the end of the Latin Mass
Because I
completely.
don't really think Pope Francis is ideological at all. Um, I think he just wants his face on UNICEF boxes. And generally speaking, being liberal tends to be more of the way to get the public and the media to love you. So I think that's tends to it appears that he's liberal, but I think he just wants to be loved, and saying stuff like that, there's more people, or at least he believes there's more people who will love him for attacking trads than will love him for defending them.
I mean, if he thinks that's the case, like someone's been feeding him wrong info, because the only celebrating today are 70-year-old dotards in adult diapers.
Yeah, but the
Okay.
Washington Post and the New York Times will write a favorable article about him, maybe.
Yeah, of course they did. Of course they did. Satan hates Latin. Okay. This is
No, like
objectively true.
that's no, but like literally, I'm not even like trying to be sarcastic or anything. Like I wouldn't
No,
be
no, no,
surprised
no.
if that was like he did it, and then his like butler, or whatever, is like, "Oh, Your Holiness." And then he starts going through like newspaper clippings about how awesome he is for doing this, and that was literally
Oh,
just the motivation. Yep,
can I just make a schizo point?
sure.
So my schizo observation is that on July the 16th, 1054, in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ, Rome excommunicated the Patriarch of Constantinople, Michael Cerularius. I'm just saying, in today is the day, nearly 1,000 years ago, when the excommunication of, well, when the Great Schism started. So yeah, I'm just saying,
Right.
yeah.
So he's getting the
Um,
old schism. He's getting the old gang back together, I guess.
I mean,
I
interesting also to note that was 30, so today is 33 years less than a millennium to the day. 33 years, so a millennium minus 33 years, that um yeah, that the Great Schism started with the excommunication of the the Patriarch of Constantinople. So yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
do you guys think that there's going to be consecrations from the SSPX to come?
I mean, there will have to be eventually. I mean, all those SSPX bishops sure ain't getting any younger, you know.
Yeah.
When was the last time? Do they consecrate bishops on a regular basis, or have they?
88.
It
Oh,
was a
they haven't
one-time
since
thing.
then.
Yeah, so Lefebvre consecrated 4 bishops.
Oh, and they haven't done any since then.
No.
Oh,
When Williamson left, a lot of people left with him, and then he's consecrated 3 bishops now. 3 or 4 bishops.
how does the SSPX manage with only 3?
Well, all they need to do is have them go around to ordain priests and to give out the sacrament of holy oil. So it's not. They only need to do confirmation ordinations.
Yeah, it just kind of seems like you're playing with fire. Um, aren't they all really old now?
75, 74, or 70 or 63 and 64, I think.
Yeah.
And then Williamson's 81.
Right.
Man, I love Williamson. Such a massive schizo. Love him.
Right. So I think that covers most of it. Um, People are saying that, yeah, Pope Francis is basically just Perone, and that he just does whatever he thinks will get him the love and
Yeah.
support of the public. So I think that's about all I did. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to bring up or talk about? Um, Maybe even if you want to go into yourself, like, does this make you question whether Francis is actually the Pope, or I don't know, whatever?
I have been a sedevacantist before.
Hmm.
I would. It's not true. You should not be sedevacantist.
Why do you say
Yeah,
that?
Um, there's no visible church within sedevacantism, and there's no way out of it. And that the level of chaos has existed before, albeit not in over 1,000 years. During the times of the Roman Empire and during the Byzantine papacy and so on, there's been great deals of chaos and confusion, especially under Popes Liberius and Honorius. So we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just stay faithful.
What I'll say is that like some sedevacantist arguments seem kind of interesting to me, but ultimately I'm not a sedevacantist. Although I don't fault people who fall into that, and I think that if they've done it out of a good faith effort to understand the truth, you know, they do preach the Catholic faith. At the end of the day, they do preach the Catholic faith, and they do have valid sacraments. So I think that, you know, I don't think they go to hell, but I think that I don't think it's true. As for me, I'll probably end up going still to my diocesan Latin Mass if it's there. And if it's suppressed, then I may go SSPX if I have to.
Based. Can I? So if we're close to the end now, can I um close with a white pill that I experienced today?
Sure, go ahead.
So as I was walking past the bus stop to my house, like walking past the intersection where the buses stop, I saw three people trying to hail a taxi cab. Their hands were extended outwards, front and straight from the torso, 45 degrees to at 45 degrees to the shoulder line. The sun was playing on their shoulders, bronze skin, unmarked by any sort of dysgenic discord. Europa is awakening. So,
Based.
so they were basically doing the Roman salute.
And can I just say, although it's a meme and I'm not serious. The famous Saint Malachi prophecy of the popes doesn't look too crazy right now, does it? Peter the
Uh,
Roman.
can I say something
Yeah.
about?
Sure.
I mean, Francis is gonna have to do a lot worse for me to assume that he's the last pope. I'm sorry, but this is absolutely not. This is nothing in comparison to what could happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As I said, it's just a meme. It's just a
Okay.
meme.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for coming on, guys. I appreciate it at such short notice. I just kind of figured we had to try to address this because I'm sure a lot of people, ourselves included, are pretty confused by the whole thing.
Yeah. Um. So I'm gonna start off a YouTube spin-off of Isildur Chat.
Hmm.
Since and we're gonna try to do a few live streams there. So um, yeah, I'll have you guys on like
Okay,
pretty soon.
and
Yeah.
I'll share that on the
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
feed once it's done. Okay, so thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed the live stream. I hope we tried to get through that at least somewhat well. All I can say is God bless everybody. Just try to stay safe and just try to keep at it. Things are insane now, both in church and in the rest of life. So I don't know. Just try to, in the words of the great Canadian